Hi, this is Mark. Congratulations, you have found this amazingly awesome show. Chances are you're listening to it right now on whether it's iTunes or Stitcher Radio or some other mobile app that allows you to stream this amazingly awesome show to your ear holes. And I can't stress how awesomely amazing this show really is. But did you know that you can also catch the latest episode of this show on the Tangibound Network? That's right. Go check out tangiboundnetwork.com. You can look them up, and you can listen to it right there. It's even mobile friendly. What more could you ask for? Which means you can pull it up on your iPhone or your Android, even your Windows phone. Yeah, who has one of those? But still, point remains, you can do it. You can do it. Check it out, tangiboundnetwork.com. Listen to this show, the latest episode, every time. Check it out.
Hello, everybody. It's the MLBeers podcast with your hosts Andrew Sherman and Phillip Cohen. Phillip, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing all right, except for the Royals just kind of exploding in the 8th inning offensively, and then turns around and gives it away in the bottom of the 8th. But did just get a update from Rustin Dodd, the Royals Kansas City Star beat writer. And it says Soria has been dealing with a low lat issue, possible intercostal strain. He's going to get an MRI tomorrow and DL possible.
Well, and I'm guessing he's the one that gave up all the runs or started.
He gave up 4 of them, and then Mike Minor came in and gave up 2 of them.
Okay. Yeah, that was an odd game. I mean, of course I like both teams, and it's always a joy to watch. But two teams that you like play each other. But as I was going to bed, I saw that the Royals got that nice lead, and I was like, all right, I'm satisfied. Went to bed, woke up, saw that they lost by 2 on such a ridiculous amount. I was mind blown.
Yeah, that's how you stayed up a little later than I did. I made it until about the 4th or 5th inning. I was like, all right, they're handling the Athletics. They weren't blowing them out or anything. I was like, all right, I can just go to bed. I'll wake up and I'll just watch the condensed game tomorrow morning. And woke up and still haven't watched the condensed game because it pissed me off. Yeah,
I do like the condensed games. I kind of wish, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but I kind of wish that on the website or through the app that it would just go through like a highlight show of all the games.
They used to do that. They called it a game recap.
Well,
and
they still do it.
Oh, do they with actual commentary?
With a little bit of commentary but it's only one game. But I want to, have like a 15-minute or how many minutes long video of all the games. So I can just be like, all right, I can watch 10 minutes of all the the stuff that happened. Get all my content right then and there instead of just choosing a game, watching it, then going back, choosing a game. Sometimes MLB at Bat or MLB.com has a troubling time buffering up the videos.
Yeah.
But overall, I would just like it to have it as one big video, however long each, how many games there were. 10, 15 games or whatever, just into one video to show what they have for each game recap, but just as one big video. So I don't have to do the whole back out, press that one, wait for it to buffer, all that stuff. I can just watch it in one full video, which would be nice, but that's wishful thinking. But yeah, it was just weird to see the Royals waking up to that with that nice, comfortable lead, having that nice, comfortable lead when I went to bed, waking up that they lost by 2 off of happenstance with Joakim Soria and Mike Minor.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what the Royals do if Soria is actually hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of see who they're going to replace him with. Because they've had some good out of the guys they've called up from AAA this year. So...
Yeah, which that's been the good thing for the Royals. And, for me, I have to say it was a somewhat good. It was a good night overall. The Cardinals didn't win. They got blown out and was part of a triple play, which Yadier Molina shouldn't have been swinging at the pitch in the first place because he was reaching for it. But besides that, for me at least, I was actually an executive producer of a radio broadcast of a minor league game. And I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, no, that's exciting, man. Especially, because your name will be listed, and then it's going to be...
It was not only listed, there was a shout-out. Of course, you always get shout-outs when you do the broadcasting like we do. But it was just, they were like, and executive producer Andrew Sherman pressing all the buttons for us tonight. And I was like, oh, my God. Jesus.
They said my name.
They said my name. So that was kind of the big thing last night for me, and especially the Springfield Cardinals winning at home, getting a nice 3-game lead over Tulsa for the second half of the division for Texas League. But I mean
Tulsa Drillers?
Yeah, the Tulsa Drillers. So that's I guess since we can't beat the Dodgers in the bigs, we can at least try to beat the Dodgers in the minor leagues.
Speaking of the minor leagues, does the Cardinals ever do an exposition game against their AAA team?
The Springfield Cardinals or the St. Louis Cardinals?
The St. Louis Cardinals. Do they ever play the Memphis team?
They do a rotation each year. So one year it will be against Memphis. This year it was the Cardinals. It was the Springfield, and then they will play. I believe they'll play some team. High A team probably at their place, and I
just didn't know because the Royals announced last week that they're going to play the Omaha Storm Chasers, their AAA team, and just previous years I haven't heard anything about it, so I didn't know if it was more common or just the Royals just chose not to do it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, like I said, they play against Memphis one year, they go to Springfield, and I believe they'll play one of the single A or rookie teams. Most likely not the rookie teams, but play the single A teams and then have 1 year off because it's like a 4-year rotation. The last time that the Springfield Cardinals played St. Louis was in 2013. So they just have that 4-year rotation for that. And it's always exciting. The crowd gets pumped for the season and all that stuff. And another cool thing, too, is that if St. Louis doesn't play them or plays Memphis, they usually have a Memphis-Springfield exhibition game at Busch Stadium. So it's always fun to see that happening when that's going on. So moving on into the show, now we're trying to, keep time with everything. Of course, we're going to be talking about, Giancarlo Stanton. We're going to be talking about Justin Verlander. Those guys recently came off of waivers, and now there's possible trade talks here and there. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about somehow the Cardinals going on an 8-game winning streak, none other as the Rally Cat streak, #RallyCat. And then, of course, if you haven't seen it last week, I think we kind of talked about it earlier last week on the show, the MLB Players Weekend, which will have some pretty interesting uniforms. And so we're going to be talking about that as our major baseball news. But of course, we got to talk about the lighter stuff of baseball. And first of all, Ian Kinsler was cleared waivers this past week, which, is still up in the air. If you look at his numbers,
he's not putting up the greatest of his seasons.
Yeah, and they get to pay the rest of his rest of the 2017 contract if he doesn't get claimed by anybody else. And another interesting thing, he's kind of a quote-unquote free agent. Next year, I believe he'll get a $5 million $5 million year for them, and I believe it's team option. I'm not sure. I believe it's team option, not player option. Besides that, Then we have Wilson Contreras being injured on running to first base, which is almost kind of a common theme. It was the same thing with Bryce Harper getting injured, going to first, and it's always that awkward landing on the base that happens. Even though Bryce Harper was just barely after the base, Wilson Contreras just stepped on it awkwardly, and I believe he tore something in his leg, and he'll be out for 4 to 6 weeks. But
if you're looking at the Cubs, though, they kind of got They got a good option in Miguel Montero.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he still plays for the team, right?
Oh, Miguel Montero, no, he plays for Toronto.
Why does Baseball Reference fucking have him up there?
I'm telling you, I'm telling you, it was the same thing we talked about last week. If you register playing time with the team, it'll be on there. Remember all those all the pitchers that we were talking about last week?
Yep.
They will always be registered if they played for that team. Miguel Montero, if you don't remember, was calling out, I believe, John Lester.
For coming to the plate too slow, and that's why he couldn't throw out any runners.
Yeah, and that's where he got released. Toronto picked him up, and I don't think they cut him. But they do have Alex Avila, which he's done well for Detroit.
In his 8 games, he's only hitting 143, though.
Yeah, when he was with Detroit, he was doing well, but now he's with the 8 games. You said he was hitting 143?
Yeah.
And, that's a big drop-off. If you really look at it from Wilson Contreras, this year he's hitting 247, 342, and a 519 slash
he's at 274.
Did I say 274 or 247?
247.
That happens when you're trying to get on that roll,
Oh yeah.
But anyway, since the All-Star break, he actually has really done well for the team, and that's where it was kind of a big thing for him to go down, because he was actually catching fire and finally, getting injured, and it doesn't help the team. That's all I can say. I
just wonder if they're gonna let Alex Avila, or they're gonna call somebody up.
Probably.
Well, obviously they got to call a backup at least.
Mm-hmm. And I believe that it will be. To be honest with you, I believe that it will just Alex Avila will get most of the time. They're not going to switch. Oh, Lordy. But if he still wants to be part of the Cubs in 2018, that's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah, learn how to catch again.
Learn how to catch again, even though he was left fielder when he was in Indiana, I believe. But
yeah.
I could be totally wrong about that. And then after Wilson Contreras, Neil Walker was traded to the Brewers, which definitely the Brewers needed a second baseman. I believe it was, I want to say Hector Santiago. That's not right. I know that's not right. I don't even
Jonathan Villar is their second baseman.
Jonathan Villar. Even though I think he's been switching time over at shortstop, they just needed a guy that could hit. And even though...
because Villar's he had a breakout year last year, but this year Villar's only hitting 223. But they did have a guy on their bench, Eric Sogard, and 213 plate appearances. It was hitting 289.
Yeah, and Neil Walker, he's not that powerful of a guy, but he can actually hit. Like you said, Villar wasn't doing very, very well, as you said. If I can find his freaking name with Fangraphs, which is always fun. And I'm still scrolling down. Literally the last guy on the list for Fangraphs. He has a negative .7 WAR, folks. That's not good. His batting average, a 223, 282, and a 349 on base percentage and slugging percentage. Just, he could steal. He has 22 steals, but you got to get on base. You got to at least,
And with an OPS of 630, that's just not, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm. And that's where it becomes kind of this weird thing about.
But especially in the National League, Neil Walker's a switch hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's a late inning situation where bases need to be stolen, Villar's that good of an option to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just that, just really looking at it, they just needed something. And really, they're not that far off in the standings. They're only a game and a half back from the Cubs. Same thing with the St. Louis Cardinals. So they're still in the thick of it. And it's getting almost tight up in the National League wild card race, with St. Louis and Milwaukee only being 5 games back from the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Colorado Rockies. And speaking of the Rockies, we got a feel-good story. And Chad Bettis, he hasn't started all year. If you haven't been paying attention to the Rockies or his situation, they found that he had testicular cancer last year. He's been going through chemotherapy. Well, Monday, he actually started in his first game, and he threw 7 shutout innings, which is
didn't
fantastic.
Walk anybody. Yeah. He only struck out, I think, 3 guys.
3 guys, nothing too. It wasn't.
But his ground ball rate for the game was at 52.2%.
Yeah, nothing.
And if you're gonna play in Coors Field, keep the ball on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it was nothing, Clayton Kershaw-esque where he was just throwing BBs and all that stuff. You brought it up. He only had 2 strikeouts. He only gave up 6 hits. He almost gave up a run to Ender Inciarte. I watched some of the highlights of it. Just missaw the ball from the outfielder, went underneath his glove, went all the way to the wall. Ender Inciarte has that speed to go all the way home, which he tried, and he got picked off at the end of it. But it's good to see that, 2 guys this year, Jameson Talon and Chad Bettis, these guys both had, one actually did have testicular cancer. The other was doing it as a just-in-case formality. Are both, are healthy and are actually back in the game of baseball. Yeah, and still pitching. So that's been the good thing about that. And, it kind of shows that even the best of athletes need to regularly, check their health. I know that's always the big thing with baseball, because, you don't want to pay somebody $30 million and he has some type of fracture in his rib or whatever. But it also kind of shows that, we need to also check ourselves too from time to time, not only from ourselves, but go see a doctor and all that stuff.
Public service announcements.
Exactly. But, you get the good and you get the bad. I know we already talked about Wilson Contreras being out 4 to 6 weeks for the Cubs, which is going to be kind of a bad thing. But the bad that is still, not that bad, per se, is that before we actually started recording, Jared Weaver, I want to say Jeff Weaver. Who is Jeff Weaver? He's another pitcher, I believe. But anyway, you can look that up. But Jared Weaver has officially announced his retirement with the San Francisco Padres. From his injuries, it was just showing that he wasn't to his form. You look at the numbers that he posted, his career totals look great. He had an ERA of 3.63, 4.07 FIP. He had even though his ground ball rate was really almost non-existent with a 33.1, he had a nice left-on base percentage at 76.2. But if you look at his numbers for this year, he had a 7.44 ERA with an 8.09 FIP. His left-on base percentage was at 58.3. Just something that he was not up to par. I mean, if you even look back at his his strikeouts per 9 and his walks per 9, definitely his walks per 9 were elevated, to his 2007, 2008, 2007, 2009 numbers. His strikeout rate was definitely lower than his prime numbers. With a 498 strikeout per nine, he, in 2010 he posted a 935, something that he wasn't feeling it. And of course, he was throwing, wasn't his fastball, if I remember correctly, was being thrown at like 86 miles per hour.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't good.
Yeah, so it just shows that, it doesn't really, sometimes you just got to put up the glove, put up the baseball, the bat, and all that stuff. Even though he said he'll probably won't miss it, he will definitely miss it. But now it's good to see that him, without going out with injury, it's a good thing that he finally retired. So, yeah, go ahead.
Jared Weaver 5 years ago was good.
Mm-hmm. You
got to remember.
That's the weird thing about it. 5 years ago, he was really good.
But, at a certain age, most pitchers just hit regression, and he tried to stick with it and, command an 86-mile-an-hour fastball, and his command was no longer there. Because if you're throwing at 86, you got to be able to paint the corners, paint the black.
Mm-hmm.
And he just wasn't able to do that anymore.
Yeah, and, it's kind of hard to see good players or, any good athlete or great athlete fall
who
from
can tell
grace.
is legitimately trying.
Yeah.
But just can't get it done.
Yeah, and, we wish the best of luck for him. I'm pretty sure he'll get some type of job in the MLB, either with the Angels or any other MLB team that will be kind of like a pitching coach or some type of, scout or whatever.
Advisor, something like that.
Advisor. That's always kind of the best thing. Probably the Padres will be giving him the rest of his contract through being an advisor of the, of the team. I know that's what Alex Rodriguez kind of did, a couple years back, where he just couldn't play anymore and he just decided to be just an advisor for the team for a while. So, yep. I mean,
but your boy Jeff Weaver.
Yeah, who is Jeff Weaver?
I think you remember him from a St. Louis Cardinals 2006.
That's what it was.
World Series year. Yeah, he pitched 15 games for you, but he had a 5.18 ERA.
Okay, so I should remember the guy, but shouldn't at the same time because of his numbers.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's also kind of like the whole Luke Weaver thing too, because I think I said Jared Weaver with Luke Weaver. There's a bunch of Weavers that are pitchers, but besides that, now we got to talk about Giancarlo Stanton hitting. Having the power, hitting. I believe he's hit 6 home runs in 7 games.
He's up to 44 for the year.
He's eyeing right now 60 home runs. And that kind of leads us,
especially in a park like Marlins Park,
mm-hmm.
where it's not supposed to be home run friendly.
Yeah, exactly. And he's doing it, and he's doing well, but that kind of leads...
And he's hitting for average, too.
Mm-hmm. And
which, for me, if a home run hitter is hitting 40-plus home runs but also hitting 285,
mm-hmm.
he's doing more than just hitting home runs. He's only striking out 23.8% of the time. His BABIP is 293, and his WRC plus is 158. And
mm-hmm.
he's only swinging 44.3% of the time, so he's not swinging at everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, really kind of looking at it, he's got those numbers. He's got great numbers. But are the Marlins really wanting to deal with that, concerning with contracts? Because he just recently cleared waivers, and this is kind of the big news. He recently cleared waivers.
What is his contract, though? How much per year?
Right now, let me get up COTS contract, baseball contracts, which is a great website to look at all the baseball contracts. And if you look at Giancarlo Stanton's numbers, this year he's getting $14.5 million. But from 2018 through 2022, which they just have, because his contract...
7 years.
Yeah, but his contract is from 15...
No, it's not 7 years. My math is dumb.
6 years.
Yeah.
But through his contract is 13-year, $325 million starting from 2015 to 2027 with an option year in 2018. But from 2018 to 2022, he will go up to $25 million in 2018. He will stick for 2019 and 2020, $26 million. And then from 21 to 22, he will have $29 million.
Jesus.
And that's where, it's been kind of this talk in a way that we're just like, all right, we've talked about this many of times, and it's becoming a new phenomenon for at least me. I don't know about you, Phil, about the August waiver trade deadline. I'm just going to say it as that because that sounds more professional than August trade waiver, trying to figure out perfect ways to say it. The August waiver trade deadline.
There's usually a handful of guys like Stanton and Verlander that will get put on these waivers.
Yeah, and that's what
we talked about it last week. It's kind of a gauge into going into the offseason for these teams that are not playoff bound.
Mm-hmm.
They can start seeing what kind of interest maybe a playoff team has right now, but maybe some of those fringe teams like, the Rays, maybe the Mariners, or teams like the Diamondbacks or Rockies.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who might take a run on a guy like that to propel them further in 2018.
Yeah, and, not even 2018, but just, like you said, with
future.
Contenders. Yeah, for the future. I've seen articles written by St. Louis people saying that, oh, yeah, the Cardinals should go after Stanton, being on waivers. And I'm just like, you're going to use him more as a yearly thing. Yes, some of the outfield for the St. Louis Cardinals is abysmal.
But you still have Piscotty and Grichuk and Pham.
Which you name 3 guys, but one of them is actually good, with Pham.
Well, yes, but right now, I think the Cardinals organization is holding on the hope that Grichuk and Piscotty will be able to turn themselves around.
Not only that, but if they don't, they're going to rely on a very, very heavily produced minor league system that,
and they signed Piscotty to a long-term deal.
Yeah,
right?
Which is, you are correct. I believe it was a 5-year, $31 million deal.
And they can't just give up on that yet after 1 year. Look what the Royals are doing with Alex Gordon's 4-year, $32 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's hitting 197, and they're leaving him in the lineup every day.
Yeah, which you're still disdained about
salty. I'm salty.
But, really just looking at it from a whole, it's just... I get it that we already brought it up. You do it to see if anybody's interested in trading with him or getting his contract. But you also have to add another variable to it. Recently this week, the Marlins are going to be bought by Derek Jeter's group. And they're wondering, do we really want to have, this contract when we buy this team, when it's actually officially agreed upon? Where do you want to have a guy you want to give, 25, 26 for 2 years, $29 million? And I don't even know what it even says for, 23 to 27. And that's even scarier. And actually right now, since I do have the whole system, contracts up for the Miami Marlins, they're already paying $115 million this year. It's going to be down to $95 for next year, $84, $74, $44, and $29. Of course, that has to deal with arbitration, some contracts not going to the full extent to 2020, like Giancarlo Stanton's is. But if you look at 2022, they'll have 5 guys up for arbitration. Well, actually up for free agency. And the $29 million for that year is all Giancarlo Stanton. And then if you look the year before, the $44 million that I brought up, 29 of that $44 million, over half, is all Giancarlo Stanton. And then you can just keep on going.
If it's a new organization, I just feel, the idea of it is if they can trade Stanton and get a nice prospect haul for them, they can kind of rebuild the team.
Yes. And I think that's where they would have to see it, because I don't think they're going to eat up the contract. No matter what they do with the trade, they're going to eat up that contract. But the thing about it is, it's going to be harder for them to find, it is actually, a stroke of luck that the Chicago White Sox had so many great pieces and talked to so many teams that need those pieces and get, all the minor leaguers in the world. Pretty much they put all the minor leaguers into the Iron Bank. Sorry for the Game of Thrones reference, but are just holding on to that like it's gold.
And if that's a team that could afford to give up 6 or 7 of those guys, you would think the White Sox would be the team to make that kind of move, because they have that kind of talent pool.
Mm-hmm.
And would they be necessarily giving up AAA top prospects? Probably not. But they'd be giving up those AA and those high A guys that would be ready in 2 to 3 years compared to being ready in 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm. And
I would hate to see Stanton in my division.
Unless he's on your team, right?
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. As two guys with teams, in the middle of a teeter-totter with their teams, it would be devastating to see Giancarlo Stanton in another uniform in our divisions. Yep. But also, it would be monstrous to see Giancarlo Stanton in our uniforms.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think you'd have a problem hitting home runs in Kauffman.
I don't think he'll have a problem hitting home runs in Busch Stadium, even though Kauffman and Busch are very, very pitcher-friendly parks.
Yes, they are.
And the thing about it, though, we bring up the Chicago White Sox. I don't think they're going to give up all those prospects that they got for Giancarlo Stanton. Like I've already said, by the time that they're going to be paying $26 million for the second year of $26 million, and the second year through the second year of his $29 million part of his contract, we're going to see the Chicago White Sox dominate. As a potential dominate, I should say. I'm not going to go full extent, because the game of baseball can be a cruel mother, and those prospects could just fault. But what I'm saying is, by that time, they're going to have all these great players, and they don't need Giancarlo Stanton, and especially with that contract. And I don't know who really needs him besides the contending teams. Like I said, like we brought up with the Cardinals, you name 3 guys, but one of them's really good, one of them is meddling with Grichuk, and one of them's in minor league ball because he can't play. He's not finding his rhythm, and that's with Stephen Piscotty. Hell, from last night talking to the radio guys, off air, they were talking about how the Memphis Redbirds clinched their division. They took a team photo, of course. That always happens. But they said about Stephen Piscotty is that he had a smile on his face, but you can kind of tell that he was a little bit disgruntled because he wasn't with the big club.
Yeah, but you can't be with the big club if you're not hitting.
And that's true.
And if you still have those minor league options, the team is going to use those.
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
which is what it is there. Like, if you're not hitting and you can be optioned down and not have to be put through waivers, and they just paid you, a 5-year contract, then they're going to get everything out of you that they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, looking at Giancarlo Stanton, let's not forget that he is doing pretty well for the overall of this year. 285, 376, 646 slash line, a OPS of over 1. His ISO rating is a 36.1. You already brought up that he's swinging 44% of the time, and his contact rate is 70, which is below 10 points below the MLB average at 80. But he's doing it well. 44 home runs. He's scored 91 times. He already has 124 hits. And looking at the names that we brought up earlier, Ian Kinsler, Neil Walker, Wilson Contreras, the closest guy is Contreras, but only by 30 points, 30 hits.
Yep.
But Giancarlo Stanton has played more. He's had more plate appearances and all that stuff. But overall, if they had to trade him, the only team that you could viably trade to him for, with what you said, needing those prospects and needing a team that can really pay for them, are really either the two teams out in New York, the Mets or the Yankees. But when you look at the teams, the only team that he'll probably want to be on is a contending team, so cut out the Mets. You have the Yankees. Then you got to go onto the West Coast. The team that has already clinched their division, already has a winning record for the year. Clinched the winning record. The Los Angeles Dodgers are the only team that could possibly pay part of his contract and be still in the black, but also have guys that are ready to go. And the guys that have been, they've been talking about, that I've been seeing, Willie Calhoun, which is a second baseman, which I don't see him going because I know they already have Logan Forsythe. They have Kike Hernandez that can play second. They still have Chase Utley that can play second. But he won't go. But he will definitely be one of the guys that will be talked about. Then you have Alex Verdugo, an outfielder that has done well in AAA. But then we've talked about it earlier this year. There's such a logjam up in the bigs where we don't even know, who's going to be where, because Cody Bellinger can play out in the outfield. Kike Hernandez, I believe, has played outfield a little bit. You still have Puig. You still have Jock Peterson. You have
Trace Thompson, which I believe he's been more towards the minor leagues than anything else. Then you have Austin Barnes, which he's had time up in has time up. Chris Taylor, which is another guy that's been up there too. So there's a lot of guys that could see the foreseeable future with that. And it's kind of to the point where, do we really try to see, the Dodgers, even though they're already dominating, already put their other hand up and flip off the league like they did with Yu Darvish? Oh, we already have a great team. Here's our middle finger to the MLB for getting Yu Darvish. This might be, the other hand showing a middle finger to be like, yeah, we got Giancarlo Stanton that can hit bombs in Chavez Ravine. And so that's the only place that I can see where it's viable, where they can pay some of his contract off and not be such a pain, but also they have the prospects to do it. If you look at any other team, I've heard that, they say, oh, Cleveland might be a team, Houston might be a team, Washington might be a team, all the contending teams. And I still don't see the Chicago Cubs, maybe, overall, but no. Boston, they're already set. They already got their killer bees out there. They're already set. Yankees, like I said, possibly one of the teams, but doesn't have the prospects like the Dodgers. Cleveland, I don't even think they would give up money to get him. Not even prospects, but just even have the money to be in the black for him. Houston, they got a nice steady stream of prospects coming up. I've seen
Derek Fisher, which he was in Double-A last year. He's in Triple-A, but he's shown flash of greatness up in the bigs for this year. The LA Angels, another team that could possibly get him, but literally doesn't have any prospects or wanting to pay another high-price contract when Albert Pujols has somewhat failed. You already have, the guy that played for Texas a couple of years back. I can't think of his name. I don't want to say Colby Lewis because that ain't it.
No, it's
Oh man, see.
Why are we both blanking on this?
But anyway, they paid a high.
He plays the outfield. He plays left field.
No, he's a pitcher.
Oh.
They paid high price for him.
What
it was two Texas guys. You're thinking of Hamilton.
Yes. Okay. That's
another guy, another contract that failed. But I was thinking a pitcher, and I can't think of his name. But anyway, he's gone. I don't even think he's playing even indie ball anymore. So it just shows that the Angels do have the money, but have done pretty poorly on spending. Washington is, set in a way. They got some guys in the minors that could play outfield, but their main focus right now is just keeping Bryce Harper. The Cubs, I've already said, they've kind of already have the prospects and the guys to play outfield, and it would just be another log jam. And so, really, the Dodgers are the only viable ones. And do you have anything to say about this?
No,
Phil?
You covered it.
I try to cover all the bases, but I'm not that good as a utility player. But anyway, another guy that that's been part of not only trade talks, but has cleared waivers is Justin Verlander. And if you really look at Justin Verlander, in a sense, he's done decently well this year. He has a 4.11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know I go high pitched on it, but it's
it
just,
is, because he's not throwing up Verlander-esque numbers from 3-4 years ago. He's coming in with a 4.11 ERA. His K per 9 is only 8.94. His ground ball rate is only 32.8%. His opponent batting average is a 242, so it is below the league average. And he's good.
Yeah.
And really the only team he's really been linked to is the Houston Astros. And that's because they got guys on the DL from Lance McCullers, Colin Moran, Jandel Musgrove. Wrong guy. Lance McCullers and Colin Moran.
Yeah.
Two of their starting pitchers, the ones that are hurt.
And also, even though he just came back, and sorry to interrupt, but Dallas Keuchel too. Yeah,
Dallas Keuchel was on the DL. And so, looking at their starting pitching, Joe Musgrove. That's where I was going with this. Joe Musgrove is not pitching well with a 5.32 ERA. Mike Fiers isn't pitching well. He's not pitching bad, but he's not pitching great with a 4.36 ERA. And they're getting good production out of Brad Peacock, who they have been having to use. Dallas Keuchel's having a good year. Charlie Morton is having a good year. Lance McCullers was having a good year as well before he got hurt. So Verlander's the type of guy that can come in and kind of fill in the back 3, 4, 5 of that rotation.
And that's kind of the good thing. He could fill in. He can do what he needs to do for that team and possibly propel them to winning a World Series and finally getting a ring. And, we already talked about how he has, he's not back to his numbers. You already talked about, his year in numbers. And if you just look at 5 years ago, you brought up 3-4 years ago, I got from 17 to 2012, and you can totally see a regression from him. 2016 is kind of the anomaly. I will say that. Because from comparing 2012 to 2016, his strikeout rate was a 903 and 12. and in 2016 was a 10.404, which he was actually part of the Cy Young conversation. But you can, like I've said, there's that regression. Going from 2012 to 2017, his ERA, 264, 346, 454, 337, 304, and 411. So there is that start of regression. And there was some injuries there too, especially in 2015, where he's only pitched 20 games out of that year. But the other years, he constantly pitched above the 30 mark. 33 in 2012, 34 in 2013, 32 in 2014, and 34 in 2016. So, but the regression is there. You can tell by what you said with his ground ball rate, where it was starting at 42.3 in 2012 to now being 32.8 this year. His FIP, his fielding independent pitching, is a 4.18, which is just above his ERA. So it just shows that he's not really doing well pitching-wise. And so it comes to the time where
do you think the Astros need to think, can he really help us?
Yeah.
Or do we have enough in-house to produce like Justin Verlander?
Mm-hmm. And the other thing about Justin Verlander too is that he's still, I guess, relatively young in a way. I mean, he's only 32, 33, I believe. And so, if I can get this up, for some odd reason, the page started to, quote-unquote, crap out on me. So, couldn't deal with that. But, yeah, he's 34 years old. He's over the 30 mark, which is always bad. But he has a few years left in him still. If you look back from, his old numbers back from 11 and 10, 11, 2009, 2008, that year where he was pinnacle from 09 to 12, maybe even 13, he was still, he was great. And he still has he still shows a flash of greatness. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
he still
and if
shows
he can
a flash of greatness.
Harbor that for the last month and a half for the season,
mm-hmm.
and be able to produce something for if he's traded to the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you get to the playoffs, you only need 3, maybe 4 starting pitchers.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you look at their team, it would go just by ERA right here. If you're going to send out your best starting pitching, it would go Keuchel,
mm-hmm.
Peacock, Morton. And then would you throw out Mike Fiers and Justin Verlander after that?
Yeah, that's how it would be. I mean, if you even look at McCullers, which he's done well with a 3.92 ERA, and Justin Verlander, it's just the numbers are there that he can show greatness. Is Houston willing to do the trade? And
and I think the Astros are more or less okay with standing pat with what they got.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they got is as good as Verlander's been this year.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have guys that are worse than Verlander. They got guys as good.
Mm-hmm.
So, why go get a guy that's already as good as what you got, and you can leave what you have in-house?
Mm-hmm. And, the one thing that that I like talking about, and we've started to try to become savants of this because we play out of the park baseball and all that stuff, is really being owners of our team in a sense. And if you really look at it here, you have Houston being that team where they could probably, put up a little bit of money here and there. But overall, it's going to be difficult for them. If you really look at it, you have the Houston Astros paying $124 million for their for contracts this year. Then it will be 54 mil, 23 mil, and all that stuff. And most of their guys, the good thing is, most of their guys will be going through arbitration. Dallas Keuchel will be going through arbitration for next year. Then they have George Springer, which will be starting his second year of arbitration. What about guys like Jose Altuve, which now he's in kind of a option year for next year, but I'm pretty sure during the offseason they'll give him money. Then you have...
He's the best hitter in baseball right now.
Yeah, most definitely the best hitter in baseball. And then if I can even find one guy's numbers, and I think you know who I'm talking about, Mr. Carlos Correa, and I'm trying to look for it. See, when it's not in last name form, it's always hard to find the guys. And let me do this. All right, finally, Carlos Correa. He was down at bottom. Carlos Correa is team controlled until 2021. He's getting paid the league minimum at $535,000, or somewhat of the league minimum.
He is hurt right now, but he'll come back before the playoffs start, and he was hitting 320 in 84 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, no, I just don't think the Astros are more or less willing to do anything to go get Verlander, and that's why they didn't before the trade deadline at July 31st.
Mm-hmm. Because you also have to look at Verlander's contract too, and like I said before, it's kind of been becoming more of my wheelhouse to learn contracts and stuff through the out of the park baseball. But Justin Verlander, from this year till 2020, is getting paid $28 million a year. He's regressing. Right now, the Detroit Tigers, their payroll right now is $199 million. So, I know they want to get rid of that money. And it's kind of the same thing with Miguel Cabrera. He's getting paid $28 million this year, and then from 2018 through 2021, he's getting paid $30 million. But that's not but the point is that they're paying a lot for a team that's not even playing to win a title, even though they have some of the guys that can do it. They've overpaid a little bit. And that's kind of been one of the big things with Detroit, trying to get rid of guys while Houston is building up a team through their minor league system, through a little bit of trades, through this, through that. And that's been kind of the good thing. And so it would be nice for them to get Verlander, but I just don't see it happening because Verlander would pretty much pay for almost half the team, probably. And that's no joke. Like I said, Carlos Correa is getting paid over league minimum. And I believe if my eyes are seeing this correctly, 10 other guys are getting paid with that much money. And then you have a couple guys that are getting paid less than $5 million. So, and those are the bigger names too. Like we bring up George Springer, Jose Altuve, Marwin Gonzalez is another guy, Michael Friars. All the names that we've brought up are still getting paid under $5 million, and some of them are not, and some of them are still team controlled. So that's where it becomes: do the Houston Astros really want to get him or not? And I believe, like what you said, they don't want to get him. They want to stand pat and all that. Do you have anything else to say about that?
No, not really, man.
All righty. That actually comes up to the to the break of the MLBeers podcast. Of course, when we come back, we will be talking about the second part of our name, and then we'll be talking about the Cardinals Rally Cat, and, of course, the MLB Players Weekend. So we'll be right back here on the MLBeers podcast. and welcome back to the MLBeers podcast with your hosts Andrew Sherman and Phillip Quarren. And of course, always after our break, we talk about the second part of our name of the MLBeers podcast, the beer portion of the podcast. And Phil, what are you drinking today?
I'm drinking Unida's Detour Double IPA.
Nice. In your nice koozie.
Oh yeah. Comes in at a strong 9.4%.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you should really drink before eating lunch, like I have, because I make sound decisions.
You make some decisions.
Yeah. But no, it's pretty good beer. It's a solid double IPA. Like really nothing that special about it besides it being 9.4%.
And I have to ask, is it a bit sweet?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's how, really if you try to do a double IPA, it's sweet. It's really sweet.
I never really thought about that, but yeah.
I believe I had the doozy, which is the double IPA from Mother's. And
have you had the oak aged version?
I believe I did. I'll have to.
Because that was a couple years ago. They don't do it anymore, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good beer. I mean, double IPAs are good, but of course the two big things about it is the how sweet it is and how boozy it is.
Yes.
And especially, being oaked aged, it wouldn't have much significance on how boozy it would be, but sometimes it does.
Yeah. And usually the oak age will just kind of think of it like when you're smoking like barbecue meats and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You're using oak wood, so you're going to get kind of that like back end kind of just woodiness to it, and it kind of tones down the sweetness.
Mm-hmm. And I was just going to say that, you look at other double IPAs like Mother's. Does Boulevard make a double IPA? I don't think so.
Around?
Not even the year round, just like not even a seasonal.
That's a Google worthy question.
To the Googles.
Let me.
Because for me, I just hardly ever see any double IPAs around. Because again, I believe that Schlafly's...
They take a lot to make.
Yeah, because if you don't know how a double IPA is made, it's pretty much double the hops. And that's where it gets sweet and all that stuff.
Early Riser, Irish, Nutcracker, Show Me Sour, Spicy Rail. Those are their seasonals. Sorry, I'm talking to myself.
It's all good.
Or I guess
I'm
you guys
enjoying
are listening,
it.
so I guess I'm not really talking to myself.
I'm enjoying it because, of course, I have work later on, and I can't drink before work.
So far, I'm not seeing this year a double. The Calling. I knew they made one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Which is another good beer, but it's sweet. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very citrusy too. It's a very citrusy.
I think that's what I got more out of that one than the sweetness, so that's why I didn't think about it.
Yep.
But yeah, usually double IPAs, like I said, is double the hops, and so you'll get that more of a sweet, bitter taste. And I mean, yeah. And like I said, I'm drinking water, so I'm not part of the cool kids today.
What? Oh, I know this is not craft beer per se, but this weekend I discovered I like Coors Banquet beer.
Okay. The normal Coors beer?
Can.
Say that again, Phil?
I did because I was listening to the Salty Language podcast, and Tony was talking how he went camping, and they were out of beer or had to make a run or whatever, and there wasn't PBR or something, and they're like, or someone was drinking Coors Banquet, and he was like, I've never had it. Let me have it a try. And he was like, it was pretty good. And on Saturday, I was at the store, and I saw a 12-pack of Coors Banquet was on sale. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it. And it turned out to be pretty good.
Nice. Yeah, I will have to ask again about the first part of that story because you cut out a little bit.
Which part did you get? I talked about the salty.
I got about to the salty language podcast because I believe you said something right before that, and that's what happens.
It's in a 12-ounce can.
Okay,
but it's like yellowish,
like a gold or okay. Now I know what you're talking about. Yes. And as one of the macro beers, it's actually a good one. And
so it's up there for PBR with me.
Which is like
maybe I can start the new trend for hipsters.
Yes.
Coors Banquet
for the hipsters.
Yes.
Let me try to get that as a radio voice real quick. Coors Banquet for the hipsters. Yeah, I could do better. That wasn't my best.
I was going to say I've heard better from you.
I mean, definitely with the Mike's Hard Lemonade. Definitely a good time to remember your high school days. But of course, like I said before, you cut out a little bit, and that's what happens when you do stuff over Skype, which Skype, but it's free.
Yeah,
so I
already had my issues this morning with Skype, so done with it.
Done. But anyway, speaking of done, we are done with the beers portion of the podcast, and like I said, I do apologize for not drinking, but of course I got to make sure I press the correct buttons tonight at the minor league baseball game. And the team that I work for, the Springfield Cardinals, and a team that we have to talk about now, my favorite team that was on a little bit of a winning streak. An 8-game winning streak.
And they brought themselves right back into contention for that Central Division spot.
Yeah.
Maybe not the wild card because they're still 5 games back competing against the Rockies and Diamondbacks, but them and the Brewers are only a game and a half back of the Cubs right now.
Yes.
And it's in large part for what the Cardinals were able to do. They went on an 8-game winning streak.
Yeah, and the infamous quote-unquote #RallyCat was born.
Did Mike Matheny ever get it?
Yes. Actually, right now, I believe it's in a cage. I'm not saying like right now, but
Good, that's where it belongs.
The last, if you've not heard about it already, the Rally Cat for St. Louis Cardinals. Cat somehow got into the stadium, got onto the field, went to left field, somebody got it, and then the weird thing about it was Yadier Molina took his bat and pointed it that way. A lot of people up in the booth were saying he's calling a shot, but he's actually but then they looked towards it and there was a cat.
And then when the cat got off the field, got it outside the stadium, Molina hit a grand slam.
Yeah, which I know that's painful for you because it was against your team.
Oh yeah, no, the Royals got swept by the freaking Cardinals. Couldn't win one game.
And I know we've talked about this, how I'm still shocked that the Cardinals not only came out with a sweep, but they, by runs standard, obliterated the Royals. And, kind of the reason why, if looking back at the 8-game winning streak, we have the last 14 days up.
Which because their bats just caught fire.
Yes. You have Dexter Fowler hitting a .458. Paul DeYoung, 370, even though his swing percentage is higher than most. Colton Long, 364. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I was just saying, but he's hitting. So if he's swinging and he's hitting, then let him swing away.
Yeah, even though his contact is only the third lowest on the team at 70%. But also, a lot of guys just caught on fire. Randall Grichuk, he was actually hitting the ball. Greg Garcia hitting the ball. Luke Voigt, in the few games that he played, was hitting the ball. And the one weird thing about it, too, if you have to really look at it, is that Lance Lynn, Luke Weaver during that time period, and Carlos Martina were the guys holding down the fort. 225, 284, and a 321 ERA, respectively, for those guys. But you also have to look on their left on base percentage: 83.8, 89.3, 92.6. And those guys actually came out to play. And an odd thing about it, too, is Lance Lynn during that time had a lower strikeout per nine than a walks per nine, with a 525 strikeout per nine and a 6 walks per nine, which I've never seen before.
What Trevor Rosenthal just shut it down in 5 of the games for you.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
In 5 and 2/3 innings pitched, he had a 14.29 K per 9.
Mm-hmm.
That's absurd.
Mm-hmm. And,
so you got good bullpen. Sanjuan O had a 225. Tyler Lyons in his 4 innings had a 0. Brett Cecil, he's the one guy that did not do well for you with a 9. But Matt Bowman, 225. Mm-hmm. Zach Duke with a 0. So,
yeah, it was just a weird thing. Like, it was I guess this will kind of answer, my part of the question, but come up to you. It seemed like it was a flash in the pan. And the reason why I bring that up is because you look at the schedule now. They're right now facing the Boston Red Sox, a team that, gonna make it to the playoffs unless they somehow again go to 2011 and just completely falter at the end. But the reason why I say it was a flash in the pan is because they played a team that can actually play ball, a team, and then 2 teams that are meddling in the loss column with the Atlanta Braves and the Cincinnati Reds. And those teams are not in it, of course. And that's where it was kind of like, all right, we're seeing how they can play. They're actually together. They're doing it and all that stuff. But the thing is it going to stay forever? Of course, streaks are not going to stay forever and all that stuff.
But it's how you can play above 500 baseball consistently.
Yes, and that's the truth about it. If you can play 500 ball consistently.
And then if you can have your streaks come every couple weeks where you knock off 4 to 6 in a row, but you're still playing well above 500 baseball and not those streak periods, you'll be a good baseball team.
Mm-hmm. And, we bring it up almost every time when we talk about a team or a specific team, but you just got to win those series. You don't necessarily have to win win every game, but just win the series.
2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly. And, with this, I say it's a flash in the pan. And right now they're facing Boston. That's a team that could, potentially have the possibility of winning a World Series. Then you have the next couple of games. Then you have the Pittsburgh Pirates, which have been kind of almost in a resurgence, not necessarily as of late, but at least something, when you look at them, they're going to be trouble. And especially since it's going to be in Pittsburgh, they're not going to have that home crowd right behind them. Then they go to San Diego, Tampa Bay. Then they go to Milwaukee for a couple of games. And so that flash in the pan, it's hard to say that when you have, the 4 teams that I just named before Milwaukee, 3 of those, 2 of those 4, half of them are going to be tough games, and then the other half being easy games. And the flash in the pan usually is just a flash in the pan,
Yep.
And so, do I see something like this again where they go on an 8-game winning streak? No. If they win games, like I said, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, win the series, then okay, that's great. But when you have to look at the last part of the last month of the season, you're going to face San Francisco and the Padres once. And then it's literally all division. You got to face Pittsburgh, a team that's been, hit or miss, but has done well as of late, like I said. Cincinnati is in the cellar. They're not going to do so well. They got to face Chicago. They got to face Milwaukee. 3 of those 4 teams in the division have done well and are actually, fighting for position. Hell, we even brought it up earlier. Neil Walker was traded to the Brewers. So there's going to be some type of contention.
If the Cardinals are going to do it, they got to start knocking off. They got to start winning the division series against the Cubs and the Brewers. Because we already, I brought up the wild card seems a little bit out of reach for them.
Mm-hmm.
There's just too many teams they have to compete against. One, Diamondbacks and Rockies already have a good hold on it, but that means they also have to compete against the Brewers and pretty much the Brewers and the Cubs if the Cubs don't win the division. So they're pretty much taking on three teams, whereas in the division it's 2, Brewers and the Cubs. So if they could focus on beating those teams, be the way to go.
Yeah. And, like I said, you can have all the easy teams you want. San Diego, Tampa Bay. They got to face San Francisco for a couple games.
Tampa Bay's not an easy team. They're
that's true.
They're only a couple games out of the wild card, and they're 60-61.
Yeah, and they're we keep on forgetting that I keep on forgetting that they are a team that's part of the wild card hunt because again we weren't expecting them to do well this year, and that's going to be it's going to be a difficult last month and a half for these St. Louis Cardinals. And with the numbers that they have right now, if they could produce like the last 14, we bring up Lance Lynn, Luke Weaver, Carlos Martinez doing well. And you also have to look at the one number that we haven't really talked about is the batting averages, opponents' batting averages when they play. You have Lance Lynn, they're only hitting him, a 214. Luke Weaver is a pure 200. Carlos Martinez is 255. But the thing is, Luke Weaver's out. Luke Weaver's gone. He's back in AAA. Adam Wainwright is back. And that's kind of it also shows that Luke Weaver is the future and Adam Wainwright is almost out of the door. And because you look at Adam Wainwright's numbers, 4.50 ERA, 7.51 FIP, a 2.86 opponent batting average. And it's just to the point where you might have to, take him at Adam Wainwright, which I think you did bring this up a couple weeks back, that maybe Adam Wainwright plays as the reliever and Luke Weaver starts for next year, or maybe now. And, another guy that is also troubling is Mike Leake. He did against the Red Sox, he did not do well. And his ERA shows it, 8.80 ERA. He has an independent fielding rate of 366. But his BABIP, his average, do not say much. 400 average, 458 BABIP. His left-on base percentage is a 53.8. And his WHIP, another stat that we don't talk about often, but it is a crucial stat, is a 2.02. And the other guys, Lynn, Weaver, Martinez, are under 150, which 150 would you say is the average of a WHIP, of the WHIP category. And Michael Wacha just barely above it of the WHIP with 167. But that's it. I mean, if they shut down the teams like they did during that 8-game winning streak, we might see something different. I might see something different. I might be might be ecstatic for the playoffs than just worrying about getting to the playoffs. And, really looking at it, they got to get play from all the guys that we've talked about: Fowler, DeYoung, Wong, Molina, Tommy Pham. They
kind of got to maintain this absurd pace.
Yes. Guys that need to really come up out of it is Steven Piscotty, and he's in AAA. Matt Carpenter, he needs to do a lot better. Even though his on base plus slugging says otherwise, with a nice 851, but it would be nice that would be nice to actually get some hits here and there, gain some, get a little bit of RBIs here and there, which he's, top 5 in the category, but he can do a little bit better, and of course that's with everything else. But that's it. And, we brought up a guy earlier with Sue 1-0, which he's done well, a 2.25 ERA. But there's something interesting about him, about this next story that we're going to be talking about. The MLB's Players Weekend, which is coming up this weekend, is the teams are going to be wearing Little League inspired jerseys.
And if you haven't seen them, you can just go to Google, type in MLB Players Weekend. You can go to MLB.com, and it will bring up everything. It has their nicknames and everything they're going to use. It's going to be a pretty cool, it's going to be a pretty cool event.
That's been kind of the one thing that you brought up. The nicknames are the big ones so far. And I think out of the ones that you've seen, which one's your favorite so far? And then I'll get into it more.
Like, my favorite, I'm going to have to go with, of course, the Royals. But Whit Merrifield is going Whitbird.
Okay, nice.
Because his dad, that's what he named his bat.
Okay.
And it was just kind of, I didn't really know that, saw that. It's pretty cool. And,
so
of course, you kind of got the typical nicknames with the Royals. You got Locaine, Moose. Except I don't like Hosmer's. He called himself Popo.
Yeah, even though he has a really high ground ball rate.
Yeah, it's
Boom.
fine.
Throwing shade at him.
It's fine.
The one name that, we talk about Royals, Cardinals, which I'll bring up in a moment. The one name that I don't like with Salvador Perez is El Nino. I know he's trying to be like the kid. I like Salvi. I think Salvi would have been great.
Right, I really thought he would go with Salvi.
Would have brought great, I probably would have bought his jersey with it. But anyway, the reason why we brought up nicknames, and it was a great example that you brought up Whit Merrifield's story about how he named his bat Whitbird.
And this was kind of this weekend's about for the players.
Yeah, that's kind of
what Rob Manfred addressed in his, kind of press conference about it, is that, in the game of baseball, of course they have their personalities and stuff, but unlike most sports, they don't really get to show it off as much.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is kind of their opportunity to kind of do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, all of this is going all the game-worn jerseys over the weekend will be up for auction, and all the proceeds go to the MLB PA and MLB Youth Development Foundation, and they've already committed $30 million to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for amateur baseball and softball programs across the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah, which brings out the great benefit of, Little League stuff, and it's, Little League baseball, if you haven't been paying attention to ESPN, has been the rage besides NFL football, which I'm happy that Little League baseball is taking over the coverage more than...
Well, the Cardinals and the Pirates will be playing at Williamsport this year.
Yes, that is right. They will be playing at Williamsport. It will not be on the Little League field, which would be hilarious if they did. They would have to use
all day.
They would have to use the softball rules, where if you already hit a home run, if you hit another home run again, it's an automatic out. So that would be hilarious to see that they have to try to bunt, smaller field and all that stuff. But no, they're actually playing in the Williamsport minor league team, which I wish that they had the name of it. But
I'll pull it up.
Oh, it's at Bowman Field. I know that, but not the team that plays there. And I know the affiliate is Single A, I believe. But anyways, they're just doing it, like Phil said, to really show show the spirit of the players, how they, try to have fun, be relaxed. It's going to be, the money raised off of this will be to the MLB Players Association and given to amateur baseball and softball programs across the United States. And another thing too is kind of to give back, because if you look at some of the logos, mostly the MLB logo on the uniforms, it's just not the simple, I don't remember what they call the MLB logo nickname, but it's not the normal one where it's the guy ready to swing at a baseball. It's actually the whole development, the growth of the player from when he was a little kid in T-ball to now. And that's what it's all about. It's just showing, showing and praising the people that were major influencers, also coaches, family, just to show, that we're giving back to them and showing how grateful they were in their lives and the development of this player and to the game of baseball. And,
I got some fun facts. I got some fun facts. The farm team is the Crosscutters, and they're a farm team of the Philadelphia Phillies. Okay. And then they will, the Cardinals are playing in that stadium Sunday, August 20th. Mm-hmm. And outfielder Randall Gritchett played and pitched for the Lamar Little League team that reached the World Series in 2003 and 2004. Nice. Lance Lynn could become the first Little League World Series alum to return to Williamsport and start a game as a big leaguer, and he pitched there in 1999. Nice. So that's about it. It's second oldest park, minor league park. It opened in 1926. Oh man! And the official seating capacity is 2,366. But then they're gonna add like 40,000. Well, probably 4,000 to 10,000 bleachers. I hope not. How cool would it be just to have a small, a small intimate gathering of a game of baseball, just like the old school way. Which I think that's what they'll probably do, but then again, they want the money. So yes, I mean it's up in the air. But some of the names we brought up, you brought up Whitberg. El Nino was one for Salvador Perez. Some of the funny names, though, with these uniforms are really, really good. And, of course, we're gonna talk about the big guys, of course. Aaron Judge right now, All Rise on the back of his jersey. That will be his quote-unquote nickname. And some of the nicknames you already know. Albert Pujols will have the Machine nickname, which he got when he was with the St. Louis Cardinals. Then you have Thor, Noah Syndergaard's name on the back of his jersey. And, there's other ones too that are like Mr. This, Mr. That. You have Mr. Smile from, which is Francisco Lindor from the Cleveland Indians. But what were you going to say, Phil? Kyle Seager's doing Corey's brother. Mm-hmm. Which is, and if Corey doesn't do Kyle's brother, then they're missing a big opportunity for a good joke. I believe it's not that. I wish it was. I really wish it was, and I wish that they kind of played each other, so it'd be really, really funny to see that happening. I believe it's. I actually don't remember. I did see it, but there's just so many nicknames. Some of the players didn't even. It was okay if players did not want to, do any nicknames as of sorts. But overall, you have,
like I said, Mr. Smile for Francisco Lindor. You have Mr. Miami, which is Manny Machado, which plays for the Baltimore Orioles, which has been kind of the funny controversy with that because of the because you have, the Miami Marlins. You would think probably Giancarlo Stanton taking that name, but that didn't happen. Then, yeah, I feel like you're going to say something.
Oh, I do like Gerard Dyson's Zumbaya.
Okay, yes. Mr. Zumbaya.
Yeah.
Which is actually I believe his Twitter and
it's his Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah. Which I really do enjoy that name. And, you can always...
do you see Didi Gregorius's? It's Sir Diddy.
Sir Diddy. Yeah, which I do like that name too. And yeah, go ahead.
You got a good Key and Peele reference here from Aaron Arthur, the Philadelphia Phillies player, is Aaron.
Yeah, that is probably one of the best, I have to say, for mine. But my favorite, I have to bring, you bring up your favorite is Royal with Whitberg. Mine is with Suwano, the guy that we made the transition into this story. And Suwano...
Welcome into this week's edition of Matt Snyder's Power Rankings. As you can see, we've got...
Sorry about that, folks.
What happened there?
Of course, when you're changing to pages and every...
We're professionals, guys. We are professionals.
Yeah, we're professionals at this. But every page... Anyway... how every page wants to play a video automatically. And I'm like, no, slap of the wrist. But anyway, I have to say my favorite out of all of this was the guy that we brought up with Suwano to make this transition into the story. Is that his nickname is Sparky. Which, of course... is okay. Not bad. Whatever. But what makes the nickname great, instead of having American characters...
They do the Korean?
It is the Korean characters on the jersey. Which
nice.
I am oozing. Because it's just hilarious and great at the same time. All right, guys. Yeah, I'm just going to have Sparky, in Korean on the back of my jersey. You all can do whatever,
You got a good one from the Brewers. Michael Blazek is just Blaze.
Yes. Yes.
And then Max Scherzer did Blue Eye.
Yes. I just recently saw the reason for that, and if you don't know, which...
He has two different colored eyes.
Yeah, which is called heterochromatic.
And then, I don't know, this may be my favorite. Chicago Cubs, Carl Edwards Jr.
Okay.
Carl's Jr.
That's a pretty good one. Now I want Hardee's because you said that.
Right. But overall, no, it's just going to be a fun weekend.
And actually, I just found this. Yeah, I will agree with you. It's going to be a fun and awesome weekend for this all to happen. This might actually trump the names, all the names that we brought up. I think this is the greatest one. Oakland Athletics, Josh Phegley's nickname on his jersey will be PTBNL. And if you don't know what that means, you don't pay enough attention to baseball, first of all. But it means player to be named later. Boom. I like that. I think it's hilarious.
No, that's great.
Because
was he involved in a trade, and was he the player to be named later?
I believe so.
That's perfect.
See, that beats Korean Sparky.
Yes, it does.
Beats all Carl's Jr., El Nino, everything else. Just have that name of BTBNL, and just there you go. So I mean,
But yeah,
yeah,
that's it.
I mean that's it. And we do have to say one thing though. You know, we bring up that the jerseys look like Little League uniforms. And I have to ask Phil, what are your favorite jerseys out of this? Let's not have this, you know, oh, the Royals jersey's great, or for
no,
me,
I
the
don't
Cardinals.
like the Royals jerseys.
Yeah. Let's have a top 3 great jerseys and top 3 worst jerseys. You can go first.
I like the Pirates,
Okay.
the Mets, and I'm liking the Philadelphia Phillies.
Okay. I will have to agree. And I will say
Like the Mets kind of go kick it back to their old school 80s jerseys with the blue and their orange.
Mhm.
Pirates kind of do the same thing with their color scheme. And then the Phillies, I just really did I like their old school kind of like what they have around the collar and the P on the jersey.
I have to say I do like those because it has the cream color. Because everybody is either gray or their team color.
Yeah.
It's not cream. And that's what I like about that one.
The ones I don't like the Nationals. I don't like the black. That's just kind of weird.
Okay.
And then I really don't know because that's the only one I'm kind of seeing that I don't really like.
Okay. And
never mind. I don't like the Astros.
Yes, the detailing of the Stros with the different color blue is
That's weird.
weird.
It's
So
weird.
I have
don't
to.
know. There's a lot more that I like though.
Yeah, it's.
Like it's hard. Like the Reds jersey looks really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
The Brewers jersey looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
They're
yeah,
good. Some of them are good. Some of them are bad. And you know, I will have to say the ones that I don't like. I do agree with the Nationals. That black is really weird when they're that are known for that blue, that dark blue.
Yeah, and that's what I was just getting at. It's just the black has nothing to do with their other color scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Like the White Sox have a black and red jersey,
Mm-hmm.
but their color scheme involves black.
Not only that, let's kick it back to retro. If you go back into the 70s and 80s, that was their color scheme, red, black, and white.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. The Nationals, no. Why are you doing that?
Like it would have been cool to see them do an Expos jersey.
That probably would be the winner of the week. That is no joke.
If they did Expo, like an Expo call-out jersey,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been awesome.
Or just have the Nationals word marking.
Lettering, like the bubble letters that they use for the Expos.
Not necessarily that. Let's just stick with the color scheme. So we would have the Nationals word mark across the chest, have the W underneath, but the colors would be Expos. So of course the collars and the collars and the ringers would be Expo color. They can do the light blue on the jersey. That would be awesome. Because there's some colors that don't necessarily mix well with teams, and those are kind of the ones that I do not like for the teams. Like I said with the Nationals. Then you have the Mariners that have this nice, their nice northwest green, but that blue is just it's not appealing to the eye for me. And especially with the hat being neon blue, it doesn't help either. Texas, I don't like Texas's, even though it does go back to the
early
days.
70s days.
Yeah. Where every team had that, instead of gray, they had that baby blue away jersey. That's kind of the other one that I don't like. But if you're looking at the top 3 ones that I like, and especially one that should be a uniform for the team, I gotta say the Athletics first.
I do like them.
I do like the Athletics. Take the hat out and then just use the normal hat, but with the same color scheme. Then I thought I wouldn't like the Yankees at first, but then again I do because it's different than the traditional. With the nice, somewhat dark black, it's a dark blue black with the gray, and They got the gray hat and all that stuff. But the one that you don't like is the one that I love and definitely should be the alternate jersey. And I think you know which one it is. It's the Miami Marlins. How the hell is this not already a jersey? If you look at it, you have that nice, that nice Florida blue, light blue, then that neon orange, which I really like. The hat might be a change here and there, but that's a jersey that they could wear on a Sunday at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of try to be an aficionado with the jerseys and all that stuff. But besides that, that's my favorite one. The Cardinals are pretty
basic,
is solid. Pretty basic, like you said. It is a very, very solid jersey, which I do like. Then, another one that I like that I didn't think was top 3, but the Colorado Rockies. Even though the lettering could be better to show the quote-unquote Rockies on the jersey, I just think it's much better. I do like those jerseys, and they could wear those. Everyone else, there's a bit of a problem. They either go too neon orange or the trim of the colors don't work. The Pirates one is very likable. The Mets one is very likable because it goes, like what Phil says, goes back to the old school days. I think the one outlier out of all of this is the Tampa Bay Rays. Because since they are such a young club, they can do whatever with their jerseys. Because I know their main color scheme is a navy blue and a light blue. But they want to be kind of their own thing. If you remember, they had the Tampa Bay Rays faux back jerseys, and I said faux, not throw, with the 1970 faux back jerseys, which has a really, really bright yellow. And that's what they're trying to do with these jerseys. And that's kind of the outlier out of all of this. There's some that you'll like, there's some that you'll hate, but the Marlins one is definitely a keeper out of this. And I have to ask, Phil, do you have any final words to say about this?
I don't, man. I think we covered it pretty well. It's going to be a fun weekend. They're doing it for a good cause. It's going to be fun watching the Cardinals and the Pirates play at Williamsport.
Mm-hmm. And especially yeah, go ahead.
It's just going to be fun.
Yeah, and
if you try to not make it fun, then just quit watching and don't complain about it.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And it's, not only that it's kicking.
I don't want to hear like the traditional baseball guys. Well, this is not what baseball's about. No.
Oh, it is. It is. You just don't remember when you played Little League baseball.
Yeah, you're a grumpy old man now. Like, just let them have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the same guys that complain about bat flips and all of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and that's kind of the thing. It's here to have fun. It's here. It's for a good cause. It's for just to have fun, and also to kind of kick off the Little League World Series that's about to happen.
If they're doing this for the Little League and the youth, because when they hit a home run, the whole bench comes out and greets them at home plate.
Mm-hmm.
If someone hits a home run and the whole bench doesn't come out, I'll be disappointed.
I could see that. But then again, the game is going to be weird because you're going to expect a lot of Little League. You want to have those Little League moments, but you also want to make sure that you keep the game moving along and all that stuff. But that's different. But it's going to be an enjoyable weekend, and again, for a great cause. So to close it out here, if you're listening to this on our website, we are also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and TuneIn. And if you really didn't hear it before the podcast started, well, did or didn't hear it before our podcast started, we are part of the Tangent Mountain Network. And Phil, you know about it more than I do. Explain to me. Explain to the fans.
Explain to the people. Essentially, it's a internet podcast network where we are at, and hundreds of other shows are at, and their channels are listed out. It's a great website if you're looking for any new podcasts to listen to. Go over to their website, take a look around. It's sorted by category, and there'll be something for you over there.
Exactly. And, we're lucky to be a part of their network. I really wasn't thinking that we would be part of any network for this show, but halfway through it, we are, and we thank them very much for letting us to be part of their group. And, of course, if you want to contact us or, see our social medias, we, of course, we have an email at majorleaguebeers@gmail.com, but under the Major League, the MLBeers podcast flag, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and we are on Untapped, which is always a great place. It is the...
Thanks for reminding me. I'll check in my beer.
Yes, which I'm glad that I did.
I run it, and I do a terrible job at it.
Hey, it could be better. It could be better. But, pretty soon I might have to ask you to put a lot of Oktoberfest beers on that, which we will get to probably next week. And, of course...
Oh, hey.
What's up?
Checked it in. We got a nice little baseball reference here. We got a badge playing the field.
Yes. Perfect. I'm the savior. And, of course, if you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and, of course, press the follow button, as Phil just put in the Untapped app for our beer, you will get a nice notification of what we had today. Of course, Phil had his Detour Double IPA beer from Unita's Brewing Company, and also it brought up the badges too. And of course, if you want to contact us individually, my Twitter is TheRealAWS13, and Phil, what is yours?
PhilCo816.
Of course. And again, we thank you for listening to the MLBeers podcast. And of course, we'll be here next week to talk about some more things coming up. And it's getting right around that corner. Minor league playoffs is about to come. And also
September
call-ups, which is going to be very interesting for the last month of September, and especially the races in the divisions and wild cards. So I have to say, our motto, our creed, our saying here for the MLBeers podcast, win or lose, there is always booze.